She is coming. I know who did all this. She did, and she won't stop. She is coming back. You can't stop her. You can't get her. Hikiko San.
Walking by herself, Yumi was very upset. Night already covered the entire city, leaving space for all the lights from houses and cars at the distance to slowly dance around. Yumi was going home after being interrogated by the stupid detective. For a moment, the flashes of memory brought back the images of the pictures of her mutilated friends. That detective was one sick man, Yumi thought. Well, it was probably the turn for that retarded little bitch Chiharu to be questioned by him. Yumi and Chiharu exchanged looks when they crossed paths in the police station. Yumi smiled when she thought of trying to control the urge to punch that spineless little girl in the face there. Maybe it was worth it to go to jail, just for the pleasure to see her and her mommy dearest crying and screaming. Yumi picked up a cigarette. A drop of water fell on it. She looked up. The sky was covered by dark and heavy clouds.
Just my luck. Damn it.
Rain started falling as she ran. She got to a deserted street that was the only way to arrive at her house. She stopped because she heard a noise. Yumi looked back. There was nothing. She kept running to a covered part in front of a closed clothes store. She was already soaked. A cold wind made her shiver. Since her previous cigarette was destroyed by the rain, she picked another one. Before she could light it up, Yumi heard it again. It was faint, a moan, weak. She wasn't sure. Maybe it was the wind howling. She went to her back pocket in her pants and grabbed a pocket knife she always carried with her. She felt a little safer with it. Back at the police station, Detective Watanabe was listening to Chiharu as she repeated over and over again.
She is coming. You can't stop her. You can't. She will get them all. She will get them all. You can't stop her. She is coming. Hikiko San is coming back. She is coming back. She will get them all.
Chiharu started rocking back and forth non-stop. Her mother held her worried and looked at the detective.
Chiharu, Hikiko San is dead. She can't come back.
Chiharu stopped and stared again at the detective.
She comes in my dreams. She talks to me. She said she will make them pay. That girl, Yumi, that was here before I came, she used to bully me and the other kids. She is going to die.
The sound of thunder struck and everybody looked to see through the window heavy rain pouring violently outside. Detective Watanabe grew worried.
Chiharu, what are you not telling me? Who is harming the students in your school?
It's too late.
Chiharu said, lost in thought, looking at the water from the rain sliding on the glass windows of the detective's office. Watanabe wouldn't waste any more time with the girl. As he was leaving his office to go after Yumi, Chiharu looked at him once more.
Hikiko already has her. She brings death in her rain.
Watanabe stared one last time to the girl, and he saw her face with a little smirk that made him very uncomfortable. He left. A sense of dread made Yumi hold to her pocket knife firmly. Something was wrong. The rain was pouring. As she stood in the covered part of the store, she thought she would go for it. Since she was already wet, it wouldn't make much of a difference. Her house wasn't very far, just a few blocks. Yumi ran. Her shoes splashed water as she was going through the street. Besides the rain and her steps, the only thing she heard was her breathing. For a moment, with the corner of her eyes, Ayumi thought she saw someone with a raincoat standing, but didn't pay much attention. She turned left in another street that was also deserted, and she heard it loud and clear. A moan, filled with anger, hatred, mixed with crying. Ayumi stopped. Her heart was pounding both from the running and from the horrible sound she was hearing. Ayumi turned around and then she saw, under the rain, a shape of a schoolgirl, with a ragged and torn uniform, the long black hair covering her face, skinny dead arms, red glowing eyes. They were staring at Ayumi. She could sense the evil emanating from what was at the other end of the street, an evil that Ayumi knew was intended to her. Ayumi knew who that was. It was Hikiko. But was that even possible? The girl was dead. She saw pictures of her destroyed body under a bus on the internet. Hikiko started walking slowly towards Ayumi with her hands extended to reach her. Beneath her hair, Hikiko had an evil smile that held a veiled promise to rip Ayumi apart in the most painful and slow way possible. It was her only purpose, to destroy the other girl until she was nothing more than pieces of bone, flesh, guts, and splatter of blood all over the place. Ayumi ran, trying to escape. Hikiko just watched in amusement. Ayumi couldn't think properly. The terror had already taken over her entirely, so much so she even forgot where her house was. She turned to the opposite way where she was supposed to go. Meanwhile, Watanabe was driving his car in the area that was close to Ayumi's house. As he was praying, she was going straight to it after their conversation. The rain was strong and the streets were strangely deserted. Suddenly, he saw someone running with a raincoat. He stopped the car and went after the person. He grabbed the caped person by the arm. He needed to ask if the person saw a rocker girl run past by. To Watanabe's surprise, as he turned the person around, it was Tetsuya.
You? What are you doing here?
Tetsuya gave a little smirk, just like Chiharu did, and pointed to a direction. Watanabe looked. He saw Yumi running and tripping on the ground, falling to her knees. The detective screamed her name. Far away from all that, resting on top of a desk in a bedroom, there was a picture of 3 young teenagers, 2 girls and 1 boy. Back to Yumi, she was starting to lose her breath. The sensation of being followed never left her, and she had the confirmation every time she looked back and saw Hikiko San standing looking at her with her red evil eyes. Ayumi kept running to suddenly trip and fall to her knees in the middle of the street. She heard someone screaming at her name. As she looked, she saw the detective with the hooded person beside him. Her eyes grew wide to see Tetsuya. He was smiling. Before Ayumi could cry for help, Hikiko appeared behind her, grabbed her by her ankle and dragged her violently. Ayumi hit face down on the street. Watanabe screamed her name as he saw Yumi trip, and as soon as she looked back at him, she just disappeared. He ran to where the girl once was. Tetsuya stood where he was. He was enjoying watching the whole thing happen. Watanabe looked around. There was no one there. He ran back to Tetsuya.
Where is she?
Hikiko San took her.
Stop fucking around. The girl just disappeared.
For you, maybe. Only those who are cursed by Hikiko can see her. If that little bitch disappeared, it was Hikiko who took her.
You have something to do with all this. You are responsible with all those girls' deaths. You little shit.
Me? Well, I guess you are wrong, detective. I didn't do anything. Hikiko did. The girls who died are the only responsible for their deaths. I'm just here to watch they get what they deserve. But if you are so eager to know, probably Ayumi's remains are at school by now.
Watanabe wanted to punch the boy right where he was, but he couldn't waste any more time, and so he ran back to his car and went to the school. Tetsuya slowly walked down the street with a smile on his face. At the dark, empty Misato High School in Saitama, a very wounded and bloody Yumi was walking aimlessly in the hallways. Hikiko was nowhere to be found, but still Yumi could hear sometimes her moan echo in the air just to let her know that she was not alone. Ayumi went down the stairs supporting herself on the wall, leaving a trail of a bloody hand on the wall. Skin would hang from her arm, her leather jacket was all torn and ripped. She tripped, and that made her scream in even more pain. As she looked at the top of the stairs, Hikiko was staring down at her. Ayumi tried to get up, but before she knew it, Hikiko grabbed her arm and pulled, once detaching it from Ayumi's body. Before she could even scream by the unbelievable pain, she was thrown against the wall. Hikiko's moan turned into horrible screams filled with pain and hatred as she attacked Ayumi's body over and over again, tearing out the girl's legs, pulling out her guts. Hikiko picked the pack of cigarettes from the dead Ayumi's leather jacket's pocket and then opened her mouth. Watanabe entered the school screaming and calling Ayumi's name. No answer. He noticed the rain had stopped outside. He looked around. He didn't know where to go. He pulled his gun and started walking until he got up to the stairs. He noticed a red trail of blood going up and some splattered on the walls. That made his heart sink. Maybe it was too late, but he had to continue. He had to find her. As he was going up, he found on the floor in a pool of blood an arm without the rest of a body that should be with it. He ran up following the blood trail and, in the way, as he was running, he saw scattered around pieces of flesh. One of the legs he knew. There was no place for assuming any more. The parts were Ayumi's. The trail led to a classroom, the one he knew very well from before. He slid the door open and entered. He saw an image that would haunt him for the rest of his life. There it was, as if it was sitting in its chair, only the torso with the head attached to Yumi. Her mouth was stuffed with cigarettes. Far from the school, Chiharu was sitting in a desk in her bedroom looking at the picture of her and her two friends. Hikiko and Tetsuya, she smiled. Her mom appeared on her door frame smiling at her.
Chiharu, calm down. Tetsuya-ri's here.
She did. They gathered in the living room. Tetsuya smiled at Chiharu and she gave another one back.
It is over. The only thing we have to do now is to put Hikiko So to rest.
Chiharu asked Tetsuya.
Do you think the detective will be a problem?
No, he won't. He has no concrete evidence of the killings, and you going to the station was a very good diversion.
Chiharu's mother turned to Tetsuya.
Did you have it?
Tetsuya nodded affirmatively as he pulled a strand of hair out his pocket.
You never told me how did you get Hikiko's hair?
No, I took it on the school floor, when after Manami had thrown it away after assaulting Hikiko. I was the one who took Hikiko to the infirmary that day.
You really liked her, didn't you?
Tetsuya blushed.
Yeah. I kind of was in love with her. She was really pretty. I wanted to escape with her, to live with her far away from her family and everything, mainly to be away from her father. She said that she wanted to go with me.
Chiharu's mom put her hand on the kid's shoulder.
You know, Now, in Hikiko's honor, you have to live your life and be happy. To let her know that what she did for you both was not in vain. And we have to make her move on as well. As a non-Ryo, she's still filled with anger and sadness, even though she claimed the lives of the ones who did her wrong and you wrong. But she is lost, and it is dangerous for her if we don't do what we must soon. We have to let her go. She deserves peace now. Let's go.
They entered in Chiharu's mother's car and went to the cemetery. Later, they arrived at Hikiko's grave. The mother took a small bowl and placed alongside some incenses, took Hikiko's hair, and then said,
Hikiko San, now the deed is done. There is no more pain, no more anger. You can now rest, for all the suffering is gone.
And she lit Hikiko's hair on fire. For a brief moment, Chiharu and Tetsuya saw a girl with a school uniform walking at the distance and then slowly disappearing. A warm, calming breeze touched them as to let them know everything was going to be okay. The school was permanently closed after they found Yumi's body. Detective Watanabe didn't have anything that could link directly Tetsuya or Chiharu to the case, not even he was sure about their involvement. The mystery about the deaths involving the students of the Misato High School in the Saitama Prefecture was never solved, and they closed the case. The story of Hikiko Aomori spread like wildfire, with some changes here and there, but no one could actually know the real story behind it. Among students, the story of Hikiko San brought many debates on bullying, and if revenge was the actual moral thing to do against the people who would do such a thing. Having a ritual of bringing Hikiko back, just to kill Reiko, Sakura, Manami, and Ayumi, couldn't also be considering an act of evil? Is it justified? Can Chiharu and Tetsuya be considered bullies as well? And the most important thing, does it matter? Hikiko was dead and so were the girls, and they had nothing more to say.
If you liked this video, please consider subscribing and liking to help us bring you more Japanese ghost stories. Thank you for watching.